Whataburger Friday Night Stars, Week 11. It's called Friday Night Stars. But
What
we
a
had
catch.
some Thursday night fights last night. Cedar Hill and DeSoto.
Heavyweight
the battle
match.
of the Beltline going down to the wire. That was a score that brought DeSoto within a single point, deciding to go for two for
Heartbreak
the win.
Hotel.
Not meant to be for the DeSoto
Oh,
Eagles.
no.
It's a gutsy call, Heckma. It's a gutsy call.
Yeah, well, that's a gutsy call.
And that is how the final week of the regular season of Texas high school football begins. Whataburger Friday Night Stars joining you here from the Star in Frisco. So glad you've joined us and spent your Friday with us. The final time of the regular season here in 2019. Kyle Yeomans alongside the great Professor Diggs in studio.
Happy to be here.
He's got an actual chair this time.
I got a chair.
Which is awesome. And then we've got Heckma Harrison, as gorgeous as always in that denim jacket of his.
Yeah, it's that cold in here.
It is really cold in here. I'm not going to lie. I might have to put on a jacket
It's
here
cold.
in a second. I'm a little chilly. But Heckma dashing as always. And then a debut of Mr. William Broderick. Of course, you've been throughout the season with us, but out in the field, not in studio.
It's nice to be in the studio when it's about 40 degrees outside, so I'm glad to, wait until November to be
So,
able to get
William,
in here.
you got a famous name. Are you really famous?
I am not.
Okay, cool. I'm telling you,
wish.
you got a good name. William Broderick. I Googled you. I found nothing, but it's okay. We got something to build on, bro.
Well, I like to maintain a bit of a low profile. I get a lot of questions about Matthew Broderick.
Yeah.
I get a lot of Bueller quotes.
No, is that right?
Yeah.
That's not you, though.
No. I also get a
cool.
lot of Will.I.Ams. So it's generally one or the other.
You also get, I'm sorry, what?
Will.I.Ams.
Will.I.Ams.
Okay, you lost me. I was like, what?
William.
I see how spitting
I don't-
image of it.
I don't know if it's.
Did you see the lost look in my eyes when you said, Will? Okay, cool.
all right.
All right, we're on the same page now.
Heckma just glazed over for a second.
What?
He was like, hold up. What?
Will I am.
Yeah, you weren't
Listen,
expecting that reference
I
to
was
start
not.
the show, were you?
First time
gonna
it
be
happened
awesome.
to me, I was the exact same way. So I
Okay.
understand.
But we're super excited to have both William and Professor Diggs in studio today. Of course, we're going to break some things down with Professor Diggs throughout the course of the night. I mean, this is what you live for. Playoffs being decided today, and all the district madness and intrigue is all at an all-time high heading into tonight. Are you just excited beyond belief?
Well, they say prognosticators to remember pick in December. They don't care about October and September and October. It is coming down now.
I knew
This
it.
is where we get our credibility. This is where people want to know what do they have to say and are they right, or are we picking Northside to win by 72 in the playoffs and we're looking really bad. But it is absolutely fun football, and the scenarios, the what ifs. I love hypotheticals, and we will get into all of those tonight.
And I don't know if I can get a close-up shot here of me, but I've got page on page on page on page on page on page of scenarios that are going down. There's that close-up. You see all these pages. These are different districts and notes and scenarios. That isn't even the notes that were taken for the show for myself. That's just what can happen tonight, and that's kind of the fun part about at least this final week of the regular season in Texas high school football. But got underway last night. Plenty to talk about in terms of the games that conspired on Thursday night in the DFW area, and we'll start things off with a maddening District 4 6A. The Arlington Colts taking on Arlington Lamar. The Lamar Vikings looking for a big-time win against their rival. Well, they got it last night, a 34-33 victory for the Arlington Lamar side. And that's a Lamar squad that really found their rhythm going down the final weeks of the season, and really impressive overall for the Vikings.
Yeah, they found the rhythm at the right time. They're going to go into the playoffs, hot. Lamar is. Last night's game, almost 900 yards of offense for both of those teams. Jack Dawson is the man. Our man with the name, Jackie D. Jack Dawson did it again last night to win it with 13 seconds left. A 2-yard haul pass to Trayvon West. And guys, this is like I said, a Lamar team that is scorching hot. You look for them. Our guy and I'm thinking Chuck here. I almost looked over and said, Chuck, your guy. But Chucky's not here.
No Chuck today.
Chris Sims had a great game. I mean, Chris Sims is someone that we thought that with being replacing Jahari Rogers, he was going to have some trouble, but not so much, man. Chris Sims, phenomenal game last night, 204 yards. We're looking at a 75-yard dash there for the Colts last night. But Lamar, again, too tough. Jack Dawson and company. Also, C. Phillips for Lamar, 152 yards. He made the difference in this game, eating up a lot of the clock with his rushing yards. But guys, I'm telling you, let me just get to how close this was, because our guy, B.J. Rogers, 204 yards for the Colts in a losing effort. So You talk about a lot of rushing, a lot of points going back and forth, but Lamar in the end pulling things off.
And that's really kind of what you looked at in terms of a high-scoring affair going into this game with the names that are at hand with Chris Sims and with Lamar and what they've got on the offensive side. Now, did you expect it to be this close going into that, though?
Well, absolutely. This was a game of the week. We thought it would be probably a one-possession game either way.
Okay.
2 turnovers for each team. I took Lamar in this game, and you talked about how Lamar needed to be hot because they get Trinity in the first round of the playoffs, and it's going to be a clash of styles, and we're going to find out if they can stop the running game. And seeing that B.J. Rogers put up 204 yards running the ball, and Chris Sims had that pivotal quarterback draw at the end of the game to gash them to get in the lead before Lamar had their final drive to come back. I'm a little bit worried of Lamar's ability to stop the run against a team like Trinity in the playoffs. So it could be as good of a story as we're feeling, one and done for Lamar.
Wow, that's crazy to think about, and we'll look at that here in a moment once we kind of get through the rest of the way the 4-6A kind of conspired last night, because we had another incredible game, Arlington Bowie and Arlington Lamar last night. It looked like it was going to be an incredible game going into it, and we mentioned how we thought how close that game between the Colts and the Vikings would be. It didn't necessarily turn out for Martin and the Warriors, as they took care of business against Bowie. And what do we say whenever we really have a superstar? Well, we can kind of collaborate that as a team and say,
he balling.
They balling. They balling last night.
Yeah.
My goodness, what a game for Martin. And it kind of a statement win to close out their final week of the regular season as well, finishing up an 8-1. Was this a surprise to you guys here as well?
Yeah, I was. Look, I'm never at this point. I'm not surprised with anything that Martin does. But when it comes down to Bowie's defense, that was what I thought was going to make the difference, because Bowie has been playing everybody so tough all year. I thought that they would take away those kind of intangibles that Martin brings to the table, because they can win ugly, they can win fast, they can win slow, however you want to do it. Martin has a cure for you. But I think for the most part, not surprising that Martin pulled it out, but I did think that this would be a Bowie team that would put up more of resistance. 44-19, and the game wasn't really even that close.
I was at this game, and again, Arlington Martin's special teams is ridiculous. First play of the game, they took it back to the 1-yard line, and then they fumbled 2 plays later, and Bowie got the ball, so that was a lost opportunity, but again, an incredible special teams play. They had another kickoff return to the 13, and they had a kickoff return to the house. I mean, they had 3 huge special teams plays, and then Bowie was deciding, okay, we'll play your game, and they tried to fake punt. Martin returned it for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, it is ridiculous. Martin's special teams, they were worth at least 17 points in this game.
Yeah, that's the thing that we talk about when we look at stats, right? Because we're here in the studio, that's a lot of what we do. We're looking at who's doing good, and we're basing our opinion, formulating that off of what we see statistically. But what you got an opportunity to do was go out to a game and actually see how this Martin team is actually pulling together those victories. Because when we look and see that they've only had 150 yards on offense and they're beating teams by 40 points, it doesn't make sense to us here. But like you said, there has to be another part of their game, and it looks like they have it on all 3 facets of the game: offense, defense, and special teams.
And that's scary to look at if you're the Martin Warriors. If you're looking around and seeing that, hey, you've got all 3 of these phases working and clicking at that right time against a team like Bowie, who had a chance to really kind of ruffle the feathers of that district overall with that one loss, and then going into last night the way that they did, Martin kind of put that all to rest last night, and that was impressive.
Yeah, this is a Martin team that I know is bona fide. Whoever in the matchup, we already know who they're playing first round. Martin.
No, that's still up for grabs.
Still up for grabs. Okay, yeah. I know that we're going to get to a lot of that. And I don't want to get too ahead, but what my point is a lot of teams in the DFW Metroplex are looking at schedules and saying, okay, we don't want to get those guys to be our first game. Arlington Martin is amongst those teams as well.
But you're telling us last week how you wanted to see DeSoto play in
You're bringing up old stuff, Diggs. We don't go back. We go forward, Diggs. Come on, Professor. Let's go forward.
Just saying.
You felt that heat. You felt that heat on the phone last week. I had him, boy. I had him. He was like, heck, must stop.
He gave me the business.
That's all right.
He did.
Everybody gets it.
Trust me, it's going to continue throughout the course of the night.
Yes.
I will let that be known. Luckily for Professor Diggs, he's got a streak that he's going to have to keep up tonight, so he'll have 2 hours off, and then he comes back to the Star, and he's going to be definitely.
That's beautiful.
It's going to be back at it.
The pleasure is all his.
It really is. But I'm not going to let you run over me, sir.
I'm running over you.
I'm going to bring
right now and 2 hours from now, and by the time you leave out of here, what size? 13 Nike?
I got 15, sir.
All right,
15.
good deal. All right, they'll work. Let's go.
Well, William, you and I are doing good over here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We're just kind of letting
How
them
you doing,
take
William?
the ship.
I'm doing pretty good. I get to see just two juggernauts of the North Texas
what he's
high
trying,
school.
what he's doing is he knows at some point it's going to get hot for his seat over here, and he's trying to just kind of cool me off early. But it's all right. He's a psychology professor. I won't let him get in my head.
See,
I'm already there.
I think that's the fun part about it, because he's trying to get in your head and you're trying to keep him out, but because of that, he's in your head. Let's look at let's talk to some of the individuals last night that were involved in the both of these games. Let's start with Arlington Lamar, and overall, Mallory Hartley was at that game last night. She got a chance to catch up with one of the players following the Lamar win.
I'm here with Arlington Lamar's Trayvon West, who had the game-winning touchdown in tonight's game. Trayvon, with only 18 seconds left, down by 5, you had the game-winning touchdown, and please take me through those final moments.
It was on the sideline, and coach said it's gonna be okay. He said there was so much time left on the clock, and he said just fight, especially seniors, because this might be our last time playing on the home field. He said just fight, and fight.
Looking ahead to playoffs, what are some adjustments that need to be made within your team?
Condition. We need to condition more. Like fourth quarter, we need to fight harder. Yeah.
Absolutely. You can catch highlights and updates from this game on our show, Friday Night Stars, tomorrow night starting at 5 p.m. Trayvon, congratulations, and go enjoy this win.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks so much, Mallory. And there you see some of the passion that kind of goes into the final week of Texas high school
And
football.
cold.
And cold.
And cold.
That's another one of the reasons why he's happy to be in here tonight.
But if you look at the drive chart on that game, that final drive with Lamar, Trayvon West was targeted 3-4 times in that final drive, and you know that's that security blanket for Dawson. When it's time to win the game, you're looking for West, and he delivered.
Yeah, West is amongst the other guys that they have over there at Arlington Martin. It's a track meet. I said it before, with all the speed that they have, they're going to be a problem. Now, can they find the cure for Trinity's running game? That's yet to be seen, but that's what they're going to be looking to do.
That's going to be such a tough task overall.
It's really going to be hard to stop such an excellent and efficient running game, especially in big playoff situations. So
The Euless Trinity hasn't been right this year. They've been a little off.
That's fair. It's been hit or miss sometimes.
They were a little off against Haltom.
A little off against Haltom, a little off against Saxe.
That's fair.
It's a list.
So, all right, I'm sure we got a couple more hours, so I'm not going to shoot all my bullets right now.
Before we get into the chink of the armor of the Trojans, no pun intended, but that's actually pretty good. That worked out. Let's go to Arlington Bowie and Arlington Martin last night. Gavin Dunaway got a chance to catch up with Arlington Martin's head coach, Coach Wager.
This is Gavin Dunaway with Whataburger Friday Night Stars here with Coach Bob Wager of the Martin Warriors. First off, Coach, congratulations on a wonderful win. It's well earned for y'all. Can you kind of talk about some of the key moments and overall play of your team that helped y'all get this victory tonight?
Well, first of all, thank you, Gavin. I appreciate it. Championships are hard to win. Certainly in District 46A, we've got a lot of good football teams in this district. So anytime you can do it, it's a big deal. We won the takeaway battle. We had some really explosive plays on special teams. Our defense carried us for the ball all night. So we've done all year long. And then we got a little bit in there. All three phases, and we win the championship.
Absolutely. And kind of going back to that special teams a little bit, obviously, I mean, I felt like both teams did a really good job on the special team side. Is that something y'all really focused on in practice this week going against Bowie, or is that kind of just how it happened tonight?
Every day from youth camp on. Every day.
Absolutely. And kind of the final question I had for you, going into the playoffs now and watching this game, obviously it's still a great victory for y'all. Was there anything that maybe jumped out at you saying maybe we should work on that and get that all situated before the playoffs?
Oh, I think there'll be plenty of things. I'll worry about that when I watch the film tonight. I think we're going to celebrate it.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Coach. This is Gavin Dunaway with Whataburger Friday Night Stars and Bob Wager, Coach of the Warriors. Thank you again, sir. I appreciate you.
Thanks for coming again. You got it.
Glad we got a chance to at least hear a little bit of that interview. Kind of tough.
No, it was a great interview.
It was. It was outstanding. A lot of going on around there, of course, with the championship celebration and being able to clinch that playoff spot as well, but or that seeding at the same time. But man, you could hear the confidence. Also, the realism, at least, of Coach Wager saying, "Oh, we've got a lot of stuff to work on going into the playoffs." But overall, still a fun night throughout Arlington and that District 4 6A overall. So let's move on to a team that hasn't necessarily had any questions of where they're going to be playoff-wise. That's Denton Ryan at the 4-5A level. Well, they took care of business last night against Birdville, as you see some of the highlights. And Birdville got off to a start early where it looked like they were going to be able to keep up blow for blow with Denton Ryan. Guys, that didn't happen last night.
No, I honestly thought this game was going to be a little bit closer. Just Birdville with the chance in front of their home fans, being able to possibly upset Ryan, take this district, but no. Ryan just decided, nope, we're going to win this one too. We're very comfortable being where we are, and you saw, bigger, faster, stronger. Pretty much everything we've said about Ryan all year just continued that same trend. They were able to run it, pass it, pretty much at will. Not only, and you look a little bit further, they won the turnover battle. They had more first downs. Every single statistical category, Ryan was dominating Birdville. And that's a pretty good Birdville team that has a chance to make some noise come playoff time.
Until they play Denton Ryan again. And really, Birdville's 14 was in garbage time. I mean, it was after the game was just decided. Denton Ryan is just a cut above, especially in Region 1. Birdville is a good football team, but they're not an elite football team. And when we're getting into November and December talk after Thanksgiving, you have to be elite. And Denton Ryan is the team that is elite. They didn't play anybody in this district with them 5 or 6 touchdowns when the first stringers were in.
Now, with that being said, first stringers in general, as we'll take a look at the numbers up there, 412 yards total and just 173 for Birdville. And a lot of that came in the first half, and then, like you said, in garbage time as well at the back half of it all. But with those starters in, what's the depth like going down the roster for Denton Ryan? Is that something they should be worried about moving forward?
Yeah, I wanted to say that Denton Ryan is probably as well rested as Duncanville is. If you think about the teams that they've played, and these are blowout wins that these guys are having, but they're also resting their guys before the second half. And so this is a new season for Denton Ryan. And so everyone knows the secret. Denton Ryan plays their dogs on both sides of the ball. They don't waste any talent. If you can kick, you're kicking. If you can play linebacker, you'll play linebacker and kicker. So these are and I think for Coach Hennigan, that's what he knows he has to do because he has so many elite level guys at Denton Ryan. I mean, Amani Bailey, you look at his stats, 1 touchdown, 46 yards. That's not an Amani Bailey stat.
No.
If Amani Bailey plays a full game, 220 yards, 4 touchdowns. And so whoever Denton Ryan gets, week 1 in the playoffs, I mean, be worried because they're going to – I mean, these guys are going to play for 4 quarters and they're going to run the clock up.
But isn't it fair to say that if we're talking Denton Ryan football, we're talking about state championship or bust?
That's every year.
Every year.
It has to be.
Now, I just remember every year they're playing Highland Park. Their conditioning is not there. You're seeing players cramping up. You're seeing players down.
Right.
Spencer Sanders a couple years ago got injured in that game. So I'm worried about Denton Ryan, especially since they have two-way players that they haven't had a chance to play a full 48 minutes in the regular season. When they're starting to play Highland Park, it's going to come out of nowhere, or Frisco Lone Star in the state semifinals. How are they going to be able to manage that?
Well, I think that's something that they're aware of. I believe that Coach Hennigan is making his guys aware of what the naysayers, what people are saying about them. The battle of attrition. Are you going to be in condition? And I think, for me, that's would be automatic, the thing that I would be working on. I wouldn't get into the playoffs and wouldn't be, in condition to go the distance. They know that they've been the king of the regular season. That's you put it a nice way, right? You're the king of the regular season, but what do you do in the playoffs? And these guys had the same type of team last year. They may have had some struggles at quarterback. They found their quarterback this year with Seth Hennigan.
Yeah.
He is putting up the numbers. He's doing everything that you would want your quarterback to do. The other things are what Denton Ryan is going to be looking at. Can we hold a Highland Park or one of those upper echelon teams for 4 quarters and not just do it for a half?
Because ultimately, when you look at Region 1, it is not a strong region. Azle's going to say, hey, maybe about us. You talked about how a West Texas team in early December, late November, it's going to be cold out there. You're talking about cold in the studio. Wait until you get to Lubbock in
Right.
December. But to me, Denton Ryan, it's the questions we ask every time. And Duncanville has many of the same questions. You're going to run through teams. So what do you do when somebody hits you back in the face?
Right.
And that's going to be interesting moving forward because, like you said, even though they're rested in terms of the blowout wins that they've had, they're going to have a tough route in terms of the semifinals and finals. I mean, of course, you're going to have to beat the best in the state if you're going to win a state championship regardless, but you're going to play either Highland Park or Lone Star, potentially, I guess.
Look at you giving some predictions there. I like that.
You would play either Highland Park or Lone Star in that semifinal matchup, and then you would play a team like Alvin Shadow Creek in the state championship if they make it that far. Again, that's where they were last year. One of the better teams. We heard Nick Walters talk about that last week. But at the same time, I mean, that's a tough route for anybody to stay healthy in, especially when you haven't necessarily had that full game of conditioning that you've been able to, at least some of these teams have been able to build up over the course of a year.
So what you got to make sure that you do when you put that narrative together, you have to talk about the kind of athletes that Denton Ryan has. When you say they have Spencer Sanders, all right, you're talking arguably one of the greatest players, athletes, defenders to ever play in Texas high school football, and also to boot that the kid. I'm amazed at this 18-year-old, the way this kid is built, but athlete after athlete after athlete at every position. And so that's the one thing that I hang my hat on, because they're not just losing these games because they don't have the athletes. They're the other intangibles that come into it. And also, guys, coaching is a big part of it as well. Coach Hennigan knows that last year's matchup versus Highland Park, a lot of the people in Dallas Morning News and on down, when they talked about that game, they talked about him being out-coached. So there are a lot of things that they have to clean up, but I think Denton Ryan is one of those teams they're playing just like Argyle is playing. They've played angry all year, so I'm really excited to see what they do this year in the playoffs.
That's going to be fun to look at and see exactly how that was going to end up happening. And, man, that's going to be – I mean, that's a Denton Ryan squad, like you said, that's on a mission, and it's going to be fun to watch. Now, one game that was fun to watch last night, we're going to get to that in a moment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Battle of the Beltline recap. It was wild, really, from the get-go, and I can't even say kickoff. It was wild since these teams left the tunnel, and we have footage of that. We'll break down that game, and then we'll get into our Friday previews in the final week of Texas high school football when we return from the Star in Frisco. This is Friday Night Stars.
Billy Martin. I'm an executive vice president with North Dallas Bank and Trust. It's about authentic intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence. At local banks like North Dallas, we give you personalized service that you just can't get at the big banks. Everything we do is driven by your best interest. We call it having a high YQ or U quotient.
Hey, I'm Jack. We started SeatGeek because we want fans to have a better, more transparent ticket buying experience. With SeatGeek, you can see the best deals and buy tickets, all with a price match guarantee. The only thing we can't guarantee is that your team will win. So use the code TICKETS20 at checkout for $20 off your first order.
It's game day. A day that should be spent in the living room, not the kitchen. So next game, you just worry about the score, because we've got the food covered. With hand-battered, cooked-to-order, always fresh, never, ever frozen chicken fingers, craveable cane sauce, crispy crinkle-cut fries, and jugs of freshly made tea and lemonade. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love.
Go Cowboys!
How about this? Some pushing and shoving extracurriculars going into the Week 11 matchup, the Battle of the Beltline between Cedar Hill and DeSoto. This was from Guy Frazier prior to warm-ups. Before things really get even ramped up. And there's pushing and shoving. That's called a rivalry, boys. That is a rivalry.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they don't understand how intense this thing is, you know. And
Tell me how intense.
I mean, obviously, you know, the visuals explain it all. It's just one of those things where these kids have been elementary school, middle school, playing each other, you know, flag football, bitty ball. They go back with each other. They go to the same churches. You know, their parents work together. I mean, it's a small community, and there's they call it Battle of Beltline because there's just a street that separates everything. And that's Beltline. And so it didn't surprise me, you know, seeing a lot of that. I'm just happy now that they could keep it all on the field. You know,
that's huge.
That is for me, because I know this rivalry well, and it has gotten uglier in years past. And so, I mean, look, it's a great game. Both teams are loaded with athletes. It doesn't get any better than Cedar Hill and DeSoto. If you are someone looking for a college D1 athlete, D2, show up. You know, it's a smorgasbord of athletic talent.
Coaches did last night.
I was about to say, there were plenty in attendance of that one. I mean, if you look on the sidelines all across the field, there were people, there were media outlets, there were scouts, there was everything you could ask for in a massive rivalry like that. But that's fun. I think some of that footage was actually cut up right around the same time that you guys were having that same sort of pushing and shoving before the show, Heckma and Professor Diggs, like outside in the studio before we got kicked off.
Cameras live before?
No. We didn't get any of that on film.
And you know what?
We're good.
Nobody from my neighborhood believes that Professor Diggs shoved me. Nobody believes
we got
that.
a challenge going on here.
Professor Diggs, Heckma Harrison, William Broderick. I'm Kyle Yeomans here for Whataburger Friday Night Stars. It's week 11, the final week of the regular season here of Texas high school football. Let's go through that game last night. Cedar Hill and DeSoto in the Longhorn country, Longhorn Stadium down in Cedar Hill. And this was a massive matchup to start off with, but it was kind of an odd one really getting going from really the pushing and shoving early on, a couple different plays early that were kind of odd overall, and then it went back and forth from then on out.
I personally thought that DeSoto was the better team. And
a lot of people did.
They didn't win the game, but their defense held Salter in check pretty much for the whole game. The offense pretty much did what they wanted to do. When DeSoto needed points, they got points in pivotal situations. I was a little surprised at how, even though the score didn't turn out, and all that matters is wins at the end of the day. We can talk about what could have happened and what would have happened, but I feel good about DeSoto. 2 1-point losses in district. They're going to be okay when it comes to playoff time.
But really the biggest story about this game came down to the final couple of plays. Of course, down by 7, 28-21, with an opportunity to get a first down. There was a stop for DeSoto, or for Cedar Hill's defense that put DeSoto, would have given the ball back to the Longhorns. Instead, the whistles blew. There was a player down prior to the snap. They had to reset. DeSoto was able to reach the first down markers, go down, score. We saw that play to start the show right in the back of the end zone as time expired. And then instead of kicking the extra point, DeSoto elects to go for 2 and go for the win. They didn't get it. Incomplete pass, and Cedar Hill comes out on top. And I put out a poll yesterday on the Friday Night Stars Twitter. I want to get y'all's reaction before I reveal the final poll numbers. But would you go for 2 in that situation, or do you go for the win? Or you go for the win, or do you go for the tie?
You know, I was going crazy when I found out they were about to go for 2.
Yeah.
And the reason being is I felt like DeSoto, like Professor Diggs said, was a better team. I felt like better record, and they're not the desperate team. I felt like Cedar Hill was the desperate team in this situation, playing at home, role reversal. You know, Cedar Hill is the team that's going to go for 2 and not DeSoto. DeSoto, cooler heads will prevail. They'll kick the field goal, they'll tie the game up, and they'll play for overtime. I just feel like a lot of times when coaching is such a lost art, and I'm not saying that Coach Claude Mathis isn't a good coach, because he is, but what I'm saying, I think a lot of times that coaches become prisoners of the moment, and they make a decision based off of emotion. And I think that's what separates really good coaches from mediocre coaches. But you can look at it either way, because talking to Frazier last night, he basically let me know that this was already solidified as far as their positioning in the champion, as far as the playoffs is concerned. Now, a great play. He just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
He just dropped the ball. It's a great play, but, there's a guy defending, all things being equal. That ball doesn't go anywhere even if he catches it. But at the same time, I just think if you could ask Coach Mathis right now, would you have gone for it? I dare say that he said, I go for 2, now I kick a field goal, and I play for the overtime. Maybe he does. I don't know, because there's a lot of ego involved in it as well because of this matchup.
Are we watching the same video, Heckma?
We are.
That was a horrible play call. I mean, put it in the end zone. At least give one-on-one coverage. Do something. If you look at the touchdown play call for Lamar and Arlington that salted it, that was a beautiful play call. What we saw here was hoping your player can make a guy or two miss, and wasn't even complete. I did not like that play call at all.
Yeah, so you take a guy like Lawrence Arnold, 7 catches, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's who it went to. So you're talking the guy going to Kansas KU.
Trying to put it in your playmaker's hands.
That's it. Yeah. A situation like that. Now, you're right. It's not like they don't have a running back, Jason Brown, who's also very awesome. Yeah. But if you look at the night that they had rushing-wise, Cedar Hill was gassing. I mean, they were stopping them in the running game at every turn.
58 total yards.
Exactly. So the play right there at the end, if you're going to – and you say high percentage play, the high percentage play right then is to get it in my playmaker's hands. So – Professor Diggs, you make a very astute observation.
A little RPO there. Give yourself multiple options.
Well, I understand. I understand. But I think in that situation, you go with Lawrence Arnold because he's the guy all games that's been killing him. You let him do it again down there. And again, he catches the ball. He got one man to beat. I'll take Lawrence Arnold with one man to beat any day of the week.
So why didn't you just make it a regular throw rather than a screen?
I had 2 yards to go. I had 2 yards to go before the touchdown. So I give my playmaker the ball and I let him make a play to get in the end zone. Period. It's like an extended running play. So that's what I do. And Lawrence Arnold is the guy that you allow to do that. And as a matter of fact, if you go down their whole wide receiver corps, they have 4 guys athletically that can do it. But if you look at the numbers, 7 catches, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns.
He's the dude.
Right.
Well, with that being said, I kind of want to I like what you're saying in terms of getting it into your playmaker's hands, and I completely get that. Find a way to have your guy make the game-winning catch and make the game-winning play. I also get what you're saying in terms of you put it in the end zone, at least make him, don't make it to where he has to make somebody miss. Put him in position to make that play. And then I also get what you're saying in terms of why make it a screenplay, especially that close to the line. It was almost right off that left tackle. It was very close to the line. It wasn't spread out. You weren't in space at all to be able to even make a man miss if that were the call. There are 3 different things that you could have gone with there, and then the weapons involved. Heckman, you even talked about it. They've got 4 guys that they could go throw the football to. Obviously, that was not an open target by any means. You said it yourself. He was blanketed by Cedar Hill jerseys all around him. So there's a lot of different moving parts in a play like that and a decision to go into that. I'm kind of leaning toward the I like the call to go for it. I didn't like the play call sort of. So what's
your poll say?
So the poll is quite cool. It was a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be. 55% said go for the tie, kick the PAT. 45 went with go for the win.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that for pride and just sake, we're playing with house money. Let's go for it. Let's get out of here.
And that's a good point. Saying that, hey, everything's already locked up seating-wise. And was that the case last night, Professor Diggs?
It was the case. And ultimately, it's about, do you want to get your players 20, 30 more plays and get them hurt? Or
that's where I was kind of leading into. Is
one play,
all the chips, throw it in there.
Get to the playoffs.
Get in there, especially if you make it. I mean, you're on high. You're on cloud 9. You're a hero for making that sort of call. And then on the back end of it, if you don't make it, we're talking about it today, but I mean, further along, playoffs is where it really matters.
Numbers-wise, you look at this game, I mean, 362 yards for DeSoto to 229 yards for Cedar Hill. And so, I mean, guys, so it's almost 130 yards more. And so DeSoto dominated the game. From the yards perspective, Cedar Hill just was able to get more points on their effort. No turnovers for both teams. So it was a cleanly played game. But, look, all things being equal, I understand this is water under the bridge. Cedar Hill won the game last year, so they take the battle of the belt line again this year. That's bad blood. DeSoto's defense is, in my opinion, to have 153 yards rushing for Cedar Hill is unacceptable for a defense that has some, D1 talent across the board at every position. So it's just amazing to see DeSoto lose by 1 point.
Again,
3 weeks, twice in 2.5 weeks like this. And this is a team that we know is a great team. They've put up, video game style numbers until this point. But to lose to Summit by 1 point and now to lose to Cedar Hill by 1 point in games that were almost played in identical weather. It rained a little bit last night. It was cold last night. So Cedar Hill DeSoto has got to be hoping for, sun, dry, that's
indoor.
Playing here.
Play at the Star, play at AT&T.
That's what they got to wish
for.
Reliance
because Stadium or NRG Stadium, whatever it is now.
It sounds like to me DeSoto is not that team that wants to deal with those elements, rain, wet and cold. It's not what they like to play in.
That's a good point. We'll see what they have to go through as well here in the coming moments. Let's take a look at some of these brackets that are starting to kind of fill out a little bit, starting with the Arlington region that we talked about to start the show. There you see Arlington Lamar down in the matchup at Pennington Field in Euless. That might be my favorite first-round matchup overall. maybe the second one that's on that list right there with South Lake Carroll and Louisville. That's going to be a dogfight. But what do you think about these matchups, Professor Diggs, that you're kind of seeing? And these, once again, are set in stone at the moment.
Right. Well, Heckman, how you like in the bottom half of that bracket? If the favorites, the W's, win in the area around old DeSoto, South Lake Carroll, you feeling good about that matchup for the Eagles?
I feel awesome about that matchup. Yeah.
For DeSoto?
For DeSoto, yeah.
South
Really?
Lake
I do.
win by 2 touchdowns, sir.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
You don't have that much faith in South Lake Carroll in this region?
No, I think that a lot of people jump on the South Lake Carroll train. I think South Lake Carroll has beat Denton Guyer, a lot of great teams. I think that now they're getting into an element where you're dealing with teams that have a lot more, a ton of athletes on the outside and inside. And I think that DeSoto has a really good defense. And I think in a winner-take-all scenario, I think DeSoto has the athletes to compete.
I think they do as well, but South Lake has those intangibles. And
what's those?
I'd say Riley Dodge for one. I'll take DeSoto's quarterback over the quarterback at DeSoto or at South Lake. But I think that defensively, offensive line, the trenches, I'm going to take South Lake Carroll.
Yeah, DeSoto, where the strength of DeSoto is in their defensive line. The numbers don't indicate that when you give up 153 yards rushing, right?
No.
And so that's ugly. And so they really don't let me make my case when I see 150 yards, 53 yards rushing. But I'm telling you, I've seen this team enough to tell you that, Byron Murphy up front and company, those guys are tough. And it's not like they're going to be an easy out. South Lake is just going to show up with their majorettes and blow them out of the building.
And I know Louisville is going to give South Lake a game. I know we're going to talk to LeDarren here in a little bit, and he'll give us a little bit of insight into Louisville. But they're a very scary team right now, even though a lot of people have overviewed them with Marcus in that district. But Louisville is a very good football team. We might see that tonight.
We're going to see exactly what they're made of tonight. And I like that. You're throwing in a tease in there. First day fully on television.
I'm trying
set, throwing it in.
Wow.
William, remind me, have you had a chance to see any of these squads this year? In person?
I have seen Carroll in person this year. I've seen Louisville in person. And what Professor Diggs has said I wanted to get to, that's going to be a heck of a game by itself.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Who do you think has an advantage in that one overall? I mean, I know we're going to talk about Louisville coming up here in a moment with that Marcus game, but we're already chalking up South Lake Carroll and DeSoto. Is there legitimately an opportunity there for the Fighting Farmers?
Legitimately, yes. I don't think it's a very big chance by any means whatsoever, but South Lake Carroll, the way they've looked all year, and I think kind of the pedigree and the fact that this is tradition for them. They have that standard that they want to upkeep, not only for themselves, but for everyone that came before them and everyone that comes after them, and that really means a lot to this school. So, yeah, of course Carroll's going to be extra motivated going into the playoffs. And they're going to get a good challenge, but
can we get you to dye your hair blonde like the South Lake tradition?
No.
You're not going to dye the hair blonde?
I'm not going to dye the hair blonde.
We should have Heckman dye his hair blonde.
You should not. You should not, because that's not going to happen.
There's not a whole lot of hair
Let's go with something else. Where were we talking about again?
Shine on the back of his head there.
Yeah. Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Let's go.
You could do the
It'd be
beard.
a good look.
Will I am. I just started to like you.
He's jumping on the bandwagon.
I just started to like you, dog. Don't mess it up.
Hey,
I need to bail out of that one real quick.
Let's take a look at what we think Cedar Hill is going to have to come up against here in the first couple of rounds here of the playoffs as well. Looking at where they land following that win yesterday over DeSoto out of District 7-6-8 rather, and there you see DeSoto or Cedar Hill right down at the bottom. They've got a date with either Hebron or Denton Guyer in that second round.
Talk about a fun first-round game with Guyer and Hebron.
Right?
That is going to be crazy. But you grilled me when I was here a few weeks ago that, Denton Guyer's already played Cedar Hill this year. And so we kind of see what's going on there. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be about coaching adjustments. And Coach Walsh, to me, might do a little bit better. I love Coach Lynn, but you gotta show it to me on the field. Coach McGuire proved it year in, year out, and had that special intangible. I want to see a little something out of the Cedar Hill coaching staff to make me believe Walsh has been there and done that.
Yeah.
Denton Guyer is, you know how I feel about Denton Guyer. I'm in love with him.
How do you feel with Denton Guyer?
I love him.
Well, you just said the team that had already beaten Denton Guyer is going to lose to DeSoto.
What do you mean?
South Lake Carroll. Apparently you don't like Denton Guyer that much.
No.
He just nailed you, sir.
Hey, so basically, because this microphone belongs to me, and I'm going to make all the noise on it and let you know how good things are.
Go for it.
Denton Guyer is my team, and I love these guys. They've been tough all year. That one loss to South Lake Carroll, everybody jumped off the Denton Guyer bandwagon, except for myself, because I just believe defensively they are a lot better than people think that they are.
Giving up 60 points to Aledo? Kind of like that?
Kind of like the first game of the season and things like that happened. But again, did they get the dub?
They did.
They did get the dub.
Look at that. See that? You see how that happens? Crickets. I could do this all night, Professor Diggs, and I appreciate you. I know you're going to use a lot of big words, but hey, we're going to get through it together. But Denton Guyer's my team. I love them.
I don't think half 100's a very big word, sir.
Well, half 100 is one of those games that Denton Guyer had to go through, one of the most elite teams in the state, so I'll forgive them for that.
A 5A Division II team, by the way.
Either way,
two classes lower.
A 5A team that could beat a lot of 6A teams today.
That's a very good point.
You literally say nothing when you make that statement. But the thing about
until they play Midlothian again.
True. So the thing is, Denton Guyer is a tough team. I know that Kedra Cobb is one of the phenomenal running backs in North Texas, and he makes the difference in this game. Hebron, and I hate doing that. When we start looking ahead, we bypass the teams that have worked so hard to get there. So I want to pay my proper respects to Hebron because they worked so hard to get there. But the Hawks defense, they got to play lights out to beat the Denton Guyer, because we know what they're going to bring. Seth Metter, Kedra Cobb, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, not at all. And that's going to be so fun looking at some of these matchups a little bit later tonight. We'll get deeper into that bracket as well. Let's go down to 5A just for a split second. We just mentioned Denton Ryan and Birdville a little bit ago. Let's look at what the Ryan Raiders have to look at and out now that they're done with that 4-5A slate in Division I, and they're going to have to turn around in 5A, and this is going to be a tough route, but you don't see any of those big names there yet. You don't know who they're playing in that first round. Not that it really is going to present a challenge for Denton Ryan, but you don't see a Highland Park yet. You don't see a Lone Star yet. Did Denton Ryan get the easy draw out of 5A Division I?
Absolutely. When you're playing West Texas teams, and all due respect to West Texas teams, I know Amarillo, Tascosa, I made their evening news talking about how bad West Texas teams are traditionally, till they beat Haltom, till they beat Arlington, and I had to eat my words on that one. But West Texas teams are traditionally not as good as DFW teams, and I think when you get down to that, I don't see anybody other than Azle who will play Denton Ryan within 5 touchdowns.
Let's take a look at the top part of that bracket as well, and this is the bottom half of that left side of the bracket. Then you go to the top half of that, and you see the Birdvilles, you see the Crowley, Colleyville Heritage down there at the bottom as well. A little bit of the tougher, but once again, still playing those Western Texas teams, and then you've got Abilene Cooper. That might be is that the toughest team out of that district, Abilene Cooper?
Yeah, Abilene Cooper is going to win the district. They'll go 10-0, but it's a very moderately paced 10-0. So yeah, give them props. But again, I think Denton Ryan and Azle are going to be better teams than Abilene Cooper, and even a team like El Paso Eastwood or Eastlake.
Is Eastlake anything to look for at all?
No.
Compared to DFW teams?
No.
Okay. I've heard a little bit about them out there. I know that.
Well, the Plano situation. Well,
they played here and at the Star just across the hallway. So definitely looking forward to that. But it looks like Denton Ryan absolutely has kind of the golden path to a state semifinal. Should they be able to take care of business?
That's dangerous. Even when you say that, that's dangerous.
That's what we do. We're here to prognosticate. They're there to play.
You know, a lot of it also is going to come down to weather elements. That's a lot of Texas high school football because you're playing in different parts of Texas, and so I don't know. I do believe that Denton Ryan does have the easier way, and we expect for them. Did you say fourth playoff game is where it's going to get a little tough?
Fifth playoff game.
Fifth.
All right, so
they will go through the region pretty easily.
Okay.
Wow.
But to me, and you even alluded to this, but you're much nicer than what I'm about to say. I don't know if Hennigan can coach a big game.
Wow.
I don't know if he can win when it counts, because every time they get to the state semifinals, it's not even competitive. I mean,
they've also had to play a Highland Park dynasty in each of the last 3 years.
They have, but that could have been Denton Ryan's dynasty if they had those coaching intangibles that could have made. We could be talking about Denton Ryan with 3 straight instead of Highland Park with 3 straight. But Randy Allen has shown the moxie to do it. I need to see if Hennigan can do it.
Got to think about it, though.
That's hot right there. That's hot.
He may not even play Highland Park in that round. If
He
you
might
think about
not.
it,
And
he
I-
might end up playing a coach,
saying a prayer if
Coach
that's the
Rayburn
case.
and Lone Star across
And
the way.
that won't be any better for him.
Yeah.
I like it.
I just, when it comes down to it and you look at the games that Denton Ryan is winning, they are just bowling over teams. They're beating them up. And so they're gonna obviously hit a team, and that team is going to hit back. And that's going to be the telltale sign for what type of team Denton Ryan is. And obviously when you get to that fifth playoff game, and if that team is Frisco Lone Star or if that team is Highland Park, they're going to hit back.
Can we at least say maybe Lancaster too? Because
let's throw them in there. They hung tough with
They got
Highland
my
Park.
respect last week.
Yeah.
In the loss. 4 turnovers against Highland Park. That is the 2 best teams that Highland Park has played this year, Lone Star and Lancaster, both got 4 turnovers against them.
That's impressive. And
Two different results, though.
It showed
2 different results.
2 different results in a big way, but at the same time, it showed that Lancaster is for real. The fact that they took a Highland Park team to overtime, I know it was at home. I know they still lost despite the 4 turnovers. It shows that they're for real.
Look, Glenn Rice is going to have to make a play, and Guy said it last week. That's going to make up the difference. It's not that they don't have athletes galore in Lancaster, because they do. It's going to be the quarterback play, and if you take one team over another, and this is hard for me to say, in that group, a total team, Highland Park has the better quarterback of all of those teams.
And probably the best coach.
Right. And so, if you take another team from that, you're looking at Frisco Lone Star and you're saying, okay, Frisco Lone Star has a great quarterback. One of the this kid at Marvin Mims is incredible at wide receiver, but their defense, all-world defense. All-world defense at Frisco Lone Star.
And it's really not fair. I don't want to. I'm not going to be producing on the fly here. But if you looked at the regions, the second region, it is night and day better.
100%.
It is just
I
a
want to see it.
slugfest.
I want to see it.
We got it.
I don't know. Chris Bean back in the back. Do we have the district or
I
the
want to see the other
region?
side of this.
Do we have the region bracket with Highland Park?
Of course,
I don't think
Chris
we
has
have it yet, but we're going to try. We'll look at it later.
But let me just throw out some names: Lone Star, Independence, Highland Park, Lancaster, Timberview, McKinney North, Poteet, Lufkin. That's a team we're not talking about much. It's a team we need to talk about.
Absolutely.
Lufkin is a good football team.
Well, how about this? We'll save that, and we're going to talk about that in depth throughout the 10 to an 11 o'clock hour later tonight in our overtime show. We need to get to our Friday previews right now, and we're going to start with quite possibly the most intriguing game of the night. Louisville Fighting Farmers and Flower Mound Marcus. The Marauders winning 8 straight, taking on a Louisville squad that fell last week to Hebron in emphatic fashion, 38-14. And to help us preview that game, we've got LaDarren McClain on the phone, who's going to be on the call tonight for Texas 21. Hey, LaDarren, how's it going, man? I know you're a Louisville grad, so you've got to be extra amped for this one tonight.
Well, hey, let me get it out the way first, guys. If I'm on with the show with you guys, I know I'm doing pretty good. I just want to get that. Let's just make it clear right now.
Oh, I just grabbed my heart, man. Come on. Oh, that's awesome. Mama, I made it. That's awesome.
Hey, you know what, guys? I'm going to get a little cliche with this one because between these two schools since 1986-87, you can literally throw the records out the windows because last year, if you remember, Marcus came in this game wounded and probably shouldn't have been on the field with Louisville last year, but it was 17-13, and it had to take a Herculean-type defense from Louisville to keep that on their side. So, hey, tonight I think we're going to see a pretty interesting matchup, and I would not be surprised if the defenses come up and play big tonight.
Now, this is the battle of the axe. This is, like you said, throw all of the records out because you know both of these teams are going to be fighting for it. Now, Louisville historically has had a defense that has been lights out, and they've put together a pretty good season, but you got to be impressed by this Flower Mound Marcus offense.
Absolutely. When you want to talk about their offense, they're one of the top teams in Class 6A in yards passed per game, 288 yards. And Garrett Nussmeier, let me say that, he's been fantastic. And Coach Atkinson is not asking him to do a lot, But what they want to do is set up the run by throwing the ball downfield, and it's been a perfect blend. You know, the only blemish at the beginning of the year, obviously, they were getting a very good Bowie team at the beginning of the season, but since then they have righted the ship. They're playing complementary style football, and that offense has been lights out. So Louisville's got a big test tonight.
I know it might sound cliche, LaDarren. It's Matt Diggs. Good to talk to you again, sir. In analyzing 6-6A, pretty much, it seems to be turnovers is a disproportional variable when looking at these games. I think Coppell not making the playoffs in this district has been because of turnovers. When you look at this game, which defense do you think has the ability to generate more turnovers, and how do you think turnovers are going to play a role into this game?
Well, if you look at the Farmers, I think they are built to take the ball away because if you look at what their offense is doing, it's not all over the board. They're pretty balanced, 199 yards passing, 199 yards rushing. So they're not by themselves can win the game. The defense has to get them extra possessions, give them field position to where they can be methodical with the ball and move it upfield. So if I had to pick one, I would say the Farmers' defense is the one that can create some extra turnovers and get those extra possessions for their offense.
Hey, LaDarren, it's Will.
Hey, Will.
I was wondering, how is this Louisville Fighting Farmers team going to be able to respond after getting just smacked in the face by Hebron last week? Is that going to motivate them extra to come out against a great Marcus team? Or do you think that maybe that stunned their pride a little bit too much?
Well, you know what? When I was a player back in the day, when you got smacked in the mouth, your attention went up in a hurry. So coaches have these guys' attention. They know what they've got to do. The 2 losses this year, they've had 4 turnovers, and they've been horrible. Hebron, they just didn't want to come to play. So what you have to do against Marcus, against guys that you don't like, so you don't need any extra motivation. They've got to come out here, get the ship righted. They're going to be in the playoffs, obviously, but you want to come out here. You do not want to be that class that lost the axe. And so we're going to see a very spirited effort against the Marauders here tonight.
And this, we saw a little bit last night in the Thursday game between DeSoto and Cedar Hill. There was some pushing and shoving. Rivalries, of course, tend to boil over in that regard from time to time. But last year, there was really a lot of high tempers in this game. Do you expect the same thing tonight?
Hey, get the popcorn ready because I'm telling you, when the ball is kicked off, and I'm going to keep an eye on this, you know, the teams haven't fully come out on the field right now. But, yeah, you're right. Last year, the way the game ended had to be police on the field, had coaches separating one another. I would not be shocked if it's real chippy early, but I think it's going to be up to these coaches and these officials to set the tone early so we can get a clean game because that's what I think everybody wants to see. I think these 2 teams at the beginning of the year, once the season got going, were on a collision course for the district title. But now that's somewhat been decided, obviously, by Marcus's great play. I still think you're going to see 2 top teams go at it here tonight.
Man, thank goodness this game's on TV, right?
Hey, turn the volume down. You don't need to hear us. Turn the volume down. Watch the action, man.
Don't listen to LaDarren. Doug Anderson, LaDarren McClain doing a magnificent job. Texas 21, game of the week tonight. You can tune in tonight, and then it replays tomorrow morning as well. LaDarren, as always, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon. And, hey, we'll see if your Fighting Farmers can get it done tonight.
Okay, guys, anytime, let me know. All right, good talking to you boys.
Absolutely. There he goes, LaDarren McClain, one of the voices of Texas 21's game of the week. And, man, that's going to be a massive football game tonight. And I loved what he said. Get the popcorn ready because it's going to be a fun one on and maybe even off the field as well.
And regionally, how blessed are we to have a caliber of that crew, Doug Anderson and LaDarren McClain, doing TV for high school football. You go to Houston, you don't see that. That's a Dallas area thing. It's like this show.
Yeah, William actually got a chance to work with LaDarren for the first time this past week. He did some soccer with him.
Soccer? He's proficient at both types of football. It depends on where you're from. But, yeah, it was a ton of fun. We got to... It took about 4 hours longer than we thought it was going to because of weather delays.
You had some weather and lightning delays in that one. We shouldn't have any delays tonight.
This game is going to be outstanding. Last year when we talked about that game, we remember how heated it got when you talk about
studio.
Yeah, it got heated in studio last year. But you know, when I was looking at this game and we were talking about doing our study for this game, Louisville to me has the defense that can pressure Flower Mound Marcus. they're going to have to pin their ears back and come after Nussmeier, period. We know what they like to do. They like to run the ball, like LaDarian said, to set up the pass. Tyson Edwards is Mr. Everything for Marcus. He's been the reason why Nussmeier has had the incredible season that he's had. Nussmeier is one of the elite quarterbacks in the area to have 2,500 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, and a handful of interceptions. The kid is amazing. But for Louisville, like you said, battle of the axe, throw all the records out. But Louisville is going to have to absolutely come after him to make them one-dimensional, because if Edwards is able to get any yardage, then that opens up everything for Nussmeier.
You know what I didn't like hearing on that interview, though?
What's that?
He used the word quit. And that worries me a little bit. He said he thought they might have quit a little bit against Hebron when Hebron got up big on them. So is this going to be a team that if Marcus punches them a couple of times in the mouth and they get up early, are they going to just kind of say, okay, well, let's focus on Southlake, or are they going to double down and say, hey, let's get the sacks, let's
And you've seen
win a rivalry game.
You've seen Marcus. This is not a team you can take a series off, at least early on against, because you have one turnover, momentum's on the Marauder side, and then it might be over with from then on out. They'll take it and run with it. We're taking it and running with it here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to take it all the way through Friday Night Stars. We're going to get into those Friday previews. Plenty of games around the area. We're going to break it down next here from the Star in Frisco. This is Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
Billy Martin. I'm an executive vice president with North Dallas Bank and Trust. It's about authentic intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence. At local banks like North Dallas, we give you personalized service that you just can't get at the big banks. Everything we do is driven by your best interest. We call it having a high YQ, or U quotient.
It's in all of us, and we won't hold it back, not one little bit. Nope, we embrace it, letting it fuel our passions, pushing us deeper than we thought possible and keeping us curious. It's what sets us apart from the herd. It's how we come up with the ideas that make people say, why didn't I think of that? See, when you nurture the creativity and passion that's in all of us, you'll learn nothing is out of reach.
Ashley Home Store, the #1 furniture and mattress store in America. We have all the major mattress brands at a guaranteed low price. Plus, we have furniture for every room in the house and decorator accessories to make it yours. With multiple locations, personalized service from knowledgeable associates, and convenient finance plans to fit your budget. Ashley Home Store, the official furniture store of the Dallas Cowboys. This is home.
Days are built on mornings, and Whataburger is built on burgers. Mornings, burgers. Morning burgers? Yeah, all right. Good thing there's a burger made just for breakfast, topped with breakfast. Good thing there's the new limited time breakfast burger at Whataburger.
Back here from the Star in Frisco, home to the Dallas Cowboys headquarters. Kyle Yeomans, Hackma Harrison, William Broderick, and well, we dropped one. There's no Professor
That was
Diggs.
easy.
Yeah, he left. He left pretty quick.
That was easy.
Do you take that as a win now? Oh, look at Heckma. Yeah, he's ready.
That's my victory stance.
Nice little fist
It's great, like this freeze frame. You see, like the end of the TV show.
It's like the Breakfast Club or whatever it is, like whatever that movie is.
But I jump up in the air and I kick my legs up.
You're like superly animated throughout it all.
That's me, guys. I'm sorry.
That was fun, though, with Professor Diggs for an hour.
Absolutely.
And we'll get him back around 10 o'clock. So let me explain this, because it's actually kind of cool why he has to leave currently. And you see the notes still over there, like his seat's still there. We'll keep it warm for him. So he is an avid fan of Plano East football. And, of course, Plano East not necessarily having the best season this year, but he's such a fan of Plano East football, he has not missed a game in 25 years. That's longer than I've been on this earth.
Same here.
And he has not missed a game. So that's an unbelievable streak. Well, we got in touch with him really right after the show last Friday and said, hey, are you interested in breaking down some playoff brackets over the course of the show? And he goes, well, Plano East plays next week. And I was like, okay, well, they're not necessarily the best team out there. And he goes, no, you don't get it. I haven't missed a game in 25 years. And I was like, okay, yeah, no, go to the game. How about let's get you on for the first hour and the last hour, and we'll go from there. So definitely admire the fandom of Professor Diggs and the passion that he has for not only Texas high school football, but specifically for Plano East and his love for that school overall. So let's go through all of these Friday previews. We've got till 7 o'clock. We're already an hour down. It's flying by like the season has, really, throughout Texas high school football, Week 11. Let's look through some of these games, starting off with Colleyville Heritage and Denton. And this is kind of a game that, at least at the start of the season, you wouldn't necessarily look at as one of those top games around the area, but that's kind of what it's turned into be. And Denton, of course, 4-5. That's not necessarily what we thought they would turn out to be after their hot start, but they've kind of pittered-pattered down the stretch. Can Colleyville Heritage get back on track this week?
Yeah, this is. I don't want to do it again. I guaranteed a victory last week with Independence.
Yeah, you did.
And I had to sweat it out for 2 hours with that. But I'm going to do the same thing again, because I do believe that this is a victory that I know Joe Willis and the Panthers will be getting today. However, you got to explain how this all plays out, because this is a if the cow jumps over the moon. How do we do this as far as Colleyville Heritage in that division? Because they have to they're in the playoffs, but they have to get a win for other seeding. How does this work out?
I think seeding-wise, and I'm missing a couple pages here on my sheet.
What I'm understanding is that Heritage will clinch a playoff berth if it beats. Lone Star has to lose. Come on, Chris, clean this up for me. Chris Beam has he gave it to me. He has the whole thing highlighted, and he's our celebrity alum back there.
So is this in program right now, Chris?
Yeah, it's in program.
Oh, it's the Beam Cam. Okay, here we go.
Break it down.
Okay, so Colleyville actually is in. Now, Denton is trying to get in. So if Denton wins, they're in. If Colleyville right now, I think, has the 3rd seed.
Yes.
Birdville is the second seed.
We know who's number 1.
So you know who's number 1. So they're trying. Denton is trying to get in right now. But Colleyville Heritage has locked.
Okay, so there you go. There's a little bit of that madness kind of cleared up a little. You still look confused over there, Heckma.
I am, because if Denton loses, does Grapevine get the 4th spot?
Grapevine needs to win to get in.
Win and get in.
Yes.
Okay, no matter what. So
Grapevine. See, Denton beat Grapevine, I believe.
Oh,
so that's the hook right there.
There it is.
That's the catch.
Yeah,
that's what we were missing. Okay, so with that being said, plenty of playoff aspirations on the line today between these two squads. And if you look at Colleyville Heritage, I mean, they're the better team on paper, top to bottom.
Yeah.
Can they take care of business the way that you expected to?
Well, I do. A.J. Smith has had a pretty sound year, 1,400 yards. And for Colleyville, they're a passing team. They want to throw the ball. They've done some wonderful things with Zeke Isaac-Chabay, but also they are able to run the ball with Chabay and Ash as well. And so that's what I look for Colleyville to do. Last week's game versus Birdville, the 1-point loss, And I mean, phenomenal game. Birdville, obviously played it down to the wire, but 1 point loss for Colleyville. They knew last week that game versus Birdville, they wanted to get that one because that was going to have major implications in the district. However, this is a game again. They know that Denton has to win to get in. They're going to shut the door on that.
Well, Colleyville, when they're firing a lot of cylinders, they're a very hard team to beat, especially that offense, as you just said. They're airing it out, throwing it wherever they want to, but it's that consistency that's really giving them trouble, especially near the end of games. So if Denton's able to stay in this, into the end of the third, beginning of the fourth quarter, it really becomes more of a coin flip.
Yeah, this is the Colleyville Heritage team that's really young.
Yeah.
H.A. Smith, their quarterback, is a junior. And Isaac Chabet is a sophomore. I mean, these guys are going to grow together through this. No matter what type of whoever they get, I think it's Crowley that they have in the first round. This is just playoff experience for a young team that's in a really tough division with Denton Ryan, and so they know what they have to do. But all of this is going to be nuggets for them in the future, things for them to build on because Colleyville Heritage is a good team.
We've also talked about earlier in the show about teams that still have something to play for. With Colleyville Heritage, a little bit less so, but Denton, they need to win in order to secure a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Of course, we just said too, Grapevine loses, then it doesn't matter, but that's not what you want to think of if you're Denton. You want to just win this game, settle it there, and say, okay, win it, focus on whoever we end up facing in the first round of the playoffs.
And that's huge because not only if you are able to get a win over a team like Colleyville Heritage, not only do you enter the playoffs with that momentum, and I don't know what their first round matchups look like. We'll look at that here in the second show as well. But there's so much at stake just mentally throughout the course of the day and throughout the course of this one unfolding throughout District 4-5A. Let's go to 7-5A Division 2. This is Denton Braswell and Denison. Quick shout-out moment. Denton Braswell locked into the playoffs in 7-5A Division 2. You love to see it. 7-2 on the year. However, Denison, despite a couple wins over, district champion Frisco and then also a couple wins throughout the year kind of scattered in there, Denison has not clinched a playoff berth just yet. They've got to beat Denton Braswell tonight, or Frisco Reedy has to lose to Princeton. But Frisco Reedy, if they get the win, they're in against Princeton. Of course, we've talked about Princeton as kind of a doormat in this district over the course of the season. So Frisco Reedy has an opportunity to get in, but Denison's going to have to need some help here, guys.
Well, Denison, again, we just finished talking about who has something to play for. Braswell already locked in, which is great for them, being able to see Denton Braswell get into the playoffs. But when you start talking about Denison, you're going to need help. They're going up against an opponent that really outclasses them in pretty much every aspect that I've been able to find. So some help, you're going to be looking at turnovers, controlling the clock, the kind of things that these unexpected teams have to do against bigger and better teams.
Now, I do want to clarify really quickly. I misspoke. Denison is the team that if they win, they're in. If they lose, then Frisco Reedy has an opportunity to sneak up in there. So Frisco Reedy is the one that's actually in danger of falling out of playoff contention tonight, and they need some help from a team like Denton Braswell to knock off a Denison.
Well, I tell you what, they got the best help in the building with Grayson Thompson from Braswell.
He's been awesome.
Again, another baller in North Texas. This kid has 2,300 yards passing, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Again, man, guys, this has been the year of the quarterback. I think
they're everywhere.
This is the year of the quarterback. I mean, last year, I think we were just kind of. Last year was the year of the duffel bag boys, right? I mean, defense ruled because we'd never seen anything like Duncanville last year. But this year, I mean, you go district by district. You got a quarterback with 2,500 yards from scrimmage, and I don't know if we've ever seen anything like that with the amount of yardage that these guys had. Zach Walchuk at the beginning of the season talked about Denton Braswell and the amount of underclassmen that they had last year, and this was a team that was building. And Braswell hadn't done anything but paid dividends. So again, for Reedy, if they were looking for any help, they got the right team that they need help from because Denton Braswell is that team to get them, to help Reedy sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, Frisco Reedy needs help from Denton Braswell, but so does Denison.
Okay.
Because Denton Braswell is going to have to make mistakes for Denison to really stay in this game and ultimately give themselves a chance to win near the end.
Yeah, and that's going to be fun to watch because, I mean, you talk about Thompson and that Denton Braswell story. I mean, you mentioned last year we had some darlings, and one of the darlings coming out of that district in Frisco Reedy. They're not necessarily in playoff position right now, but Denton Braswell, man, they've been so fun to watch this year. Had some close victories earlier in the year that kind of caught our eye, caught our attention, and we continued following them all the way into where they are now as an opportunity, and with an opportunity to really make an impact and to get up into that playoff picture. Now, I want to clarify this overall. I believe they have an opportunity with a share or for a share of that district title, and Chris Beam might be able to correct me here at the same time, but I think they have an opportunity to win a district title here. Am I correct? If Frisco lose, no, it would be Denton Braswell, correct?
Well, Braswell and I think Lovejoy are fighting for the district championship.
What about Frisco?
No, excuse me, Frisco. Yeah, Frisco. If Frisco wins, they're the district champs. If Lovejoy wins, I think they're the district champs.
So Denton Braswell's out of that picture.
I believe so.
Okay, because we're looking at playoff scenarios and the district championship still up for grabs in that district as well. Let's move on down the list a little bit to Frisco Liberty and Frisco Wakeland. This is our matchup today here at the Ford Center at the Star, getting kicked off at 7 o'clock. And, man, the Liberty Redhawks, they were oh so close a couple weeks ago against Centennial, and then a heartbreaker right at the end of that one. Just ripped it right out of the hands of the Redhawks and what would have been their first win since the middle of 2017. Frisco Wakeland, on the other hand, a squad that's just got back on track with a win against Centennial last week after losing two straights, one to the Independence Knights and the other one to the Colony Cougars. So overall, this is a Wakeland squad that's kind of underachieved here in 2019, and we'll get a chance to see them against the Liberty Redhawks tonight. Moving on to District 5-6A, Keller Central and Keller battling it out in Keller Central, another one of the darlings of really the 2019 Friday Night Stars season. They've got a tough task ahead against these Indians from Keller, guys.
It is going to be hard to do. And if Central wants to win this game, I think it starts in the trenches with their defensive line, 40 sacks overall in the season. You know, you see that they're allowing more points per game than they're scoring, but they still have a winning record. Yeah. I think that's majestic. It talks about their defense and how well this team is able to play if these games are close. So when this defense is able to take over, especially in the trenches, Keller Central, I think, wins this game.
Yeah, wow. You talk about Keller Central, and I've said
this is one of the prediction games. Yeah. You don't want to spoil the prediction games just yet. We'll get to that.
Well, I'll say this, and I've said it before about Keller Central, is that they are stuck in a bad district.
Yeah,
they should go and ask to get out of that district by any means, because if they were in any other districts besides 5-6A, they would be, top of the food chain in that district because of that defense. You talk about what they do in the front. I mean, creating turnovers, sacks, things like that. Keller Central is a sound team, great coaching, top to bottom, and they beat you in all phases of the game. So I can't wait to give my prediction on this. Also, I want to say about prediction games, I'm not seeing Chi and Zach's predictions, and I'm showing that they're beating me. How can they beat me if I don't see who they're predicted? I want to go back. No. I think what's going on here, we need a recount.
Why would I want them to catch me? They're tied with me.
Chris Beam, I need your help.
This is a conversation we're going to have in 30 minutes.
I'm just saying, because I don't understand this. I don't understand how I'm not getting to see Chuck, and then all of a sudden, when the results come out, they're still winning, but I don't even know who they picked.
They really
weren't
winning,
America, help a brother out. No, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I can't. I'm not going off of that.
I need all this stuff. I'm sorry, I just do the graphics.
Come on, Chris, you got to help me with this, man. I mean, because every week I'm seeing that their numbers inflate, but mine. I don't know.
There's a reason for that. You're within one game.
You're here, so you should be higher than them. You know what I'm saying? At least you're here.
Hello.
Hello.
That's true. At least you are here. Talking about District 5, 6A, by the way, all of those seedings are already locked up. The playoff picture is solidified out of 5, 6A. South Lake Carroll, of course, champions of that district, number 1 seed in Division 1. Denton Guyer's the number 1 seed in Division 2. Denton Guyer, we talked about them a little bit earlier in that bracket. Keller Central goes Division 2 as the 2 seed there, and then Keller will go to the D1 spot. So we'll talk about that a little bit later and see how those things kind of shake out throughout their regions going into playoffs. Let's go back to District 7, 5A, Division 2. We talked about Denton Braswell and Denison a little bit earlier, but Lovejoy and Frisco, and this is kind of where I wanted to get some clarification in terms of the district title implications in this one. But Lovejoy 7-2, kind of a quiet 7-2. They haven't necessarily been putting up those gaudy numbers. They haven't putting up really the crazy stats here and there over the course of the season. But Frisco, man, that defense has been stifling for the Raccoons, and there's a big reason why they are 8-1, and with a win today could come out with a district title.
Yeah, the Raccoons have been quietly a good team, right? But Lovejoy, R.W. Rucker, is Mr. Everything for Lovejoy. If the Raccoons have a good defense, they're going to have to keep it with them today because Mr. R.W. Rucker is going to challenge them.
Yep, you just covered everything I wanted to say.
I'm sorry, I do that sometimes. My bad, man. Go ahead.
It's because you are brilliant. You know exactly what you're talking about.
He's an expert, right?
Exactly. But, I mean, you told the story. If Frisco wants to win this game, their defense that has been sterling throughout the season is going to have to show up. I think really one of the keys is going to end up being, can they win in the trenches? You know, we talk about that a lot in football, how important it is to be able to control the line of scrimmage on both sides, but especially on the defensive side. Can, these D linemen pin their ears back and get after the quarterback? And if they do, we'll see if they're able to walk away with the district title.
Yeah, and that's going to be so interesting seeing Frisco, a team that really has not had a ton of success as a program over the last decade or so, start to kind of find their rhythm this year.
Yeah, Kyrie Green, when we got a chance to see this kid play here at the Star, phenomenal athlete, okay? The Raccoons have a ton of athletes on both sides of the ball. It doesn't surprise me that they're 8-1. Frisco is one of those teams that, they hadn't been doing anything but winning all year, and now it's getting down to the end, and we're talking about them, giving them the respect that they deserve. And so, Raccoons, I'm sorry, man. We have to put some respect on y'all name today.
Absolutely.
Because, this is a team that's really playing really well, and Lovejoy has been getting a lot more of the love and attention besides the Raccoons. And so these guys are playing for a district tonight. So another exciting matchup.
And you talk about mascots, raccoon. I love it so much. The Raccoons.
Well, the Raccoons versus the Leopards. I mean, those are two really good ones. Leopards aren't like your normal cliche cat mascot. It's a little bit cooler,
right?
Get away from Tiger a little bit. Try to find something that.
Didn't we have the Raccoons and the Kangaroos the other? No, was that what it was?
I think we have had that before.
Yeah,
maybe.
This is pretty different.
That's pretty awesome. That's a pretty awesome mascot.
Battle of the mascots tonight.
And Lovejoy's had some great names. Bumper Poole, who now is a starting linebacker for the Arkansas Razorbacks, played for Lovejoy a couple years ago. That's such a good name, Bumper Poole. Playing linebacker, so he's bumping people. I don't know. It's bad.
I'm sorry. I was trying to support you on that. You
it's
needed
fine.
it.
I'm just going to go ahead and keep going.
I mean, if he's hard hitting, Bumper is a thumper. A little bit.
That's better. That's
well,
better.
you supposed at least let him die on his own. Don't help him.
Don't reach out.
I want to come back to the studio.
Yeah, he wants to help out. Yeah, that's the case. Okay, let's go to one that might be a little bit sad for one of the members of our Friday Night Stars family. You know where I'm going with this one.
I love it.
The Prosper Eagles, and that's not who I'm alluding to at the moment, but they're at home, rebounding after a emphatic loss to Allen last week, taking on those Plano Wildcats. Plano, win and you're into the playoffs, lose and you go home. And so that's basically what it boils down to for the Plano Wildcats. And one Zach Wolchuk, I tried to get him on the phone to have him kind of talk through the emotions of a Plano senior high grad in this moment. He was a little busy, and so he rejected us in terms of.
Oh, that's what happens when you make it to the big time,
dog.
dog.
It big time, and he doesn't want to talk to us. However, we can still talk about his Plano Wildcats
Absolutely.
potentially missing the playoffs after really lofty expectations toward the middle of that year.
Yeah, I don't think anyone thought that Plano would be in a position right now to make the playoffs. So that's just a testament to the kind of year that they've had, getting some victories and surprise victories for us. But look, this is when I looked at this and doing my homework, looking at Jackson Berry and Oliver Towns. Oliver Towns has 6 more yards than Jackson Berry does throwing the ball. Jackson Berry has one more touchdown than Oliver Towns. And so, I mean, you talk about 2 evenly matched offenses, it starts there. Now, for Prosper, you have to ask yourself, which defense is going to show up? You know, because we've seen them play against Flower Mound, and these guys were amazing. They were playing, looked like they were out there playing with 15 guys, and guys were playing with 11. The way that they swarmed the ball. So we don't know. But when I look at and it also goes back to last week's game for Plano versus Boyd. Nobody saw McKinney Boyd beating That's your team, isn't it?
That's my team.
I'm sorry, bro.
That's the Boyd Bronco.
I just saw the look again.
This is the keep it rolling season. Yeah, keep it going.
So, I mean, they lose last week 28-0 to Boyd, and everyone's like, oh, my God. You know, how bad of a loss is that? Because that's a game that they typically circle as a win for them. Homecomings are scheduled versus McKinney. And shout out to everybody from McKinney Boyd. But Oliver Towns, I have always thought this kid is phenomenal and a difference maker for Plano. But, you know, they find themselves in a very interesting spot. However, you know, look, the truth of the matter is that they're missing a lot of talent. I believe that they're missing 4 or 5 of their key guys. Professor Diggs, that was a nugget that he gave me and was letting me know that that's making the difference for Plano right now. And so, look, they'd have to have all hands on deck to beat Prosper, in my opinion. But in a winner-takes-all, in a situation like this, I think anything can happen. And I think you can coach these guys up to the point where they play outside of their minds, because a lot of these guys, and we hadn't touched on this, for a lot of seniors playing in these games, this is it.
That's it.
Yep.
This is it.
That is the end of the career.
This is it. So, you know, you have guys that are playing for something, and so I look for that. Maybe
our man right here's got a South Lake Carroll jacket on. How about that? Go Dragons over there.
You know, that may be the intangible that, you know, you could coach these guys up versus Prosper.
As a Boyd Bronco, I did not expect to beat Plano last week.
Well, keep it real.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of that was put on the fact that Plano was banged up, and you know, they're going to need to be healthy. They would need to be healthy to take on Prosper. With, you know, their top guys out, it's going to be really tough against an Eagles team that has looked fantastic. I remember when I was in high school, this was a 3A team.
Yeah.
You know, we were just kind of talking about to see how much they've grown over just the last, 4 or 5 years, I think is remarkable. Talk about them in the way that we have been. And
yeah,
Plano, I want to believe we'll end up seeing for Wolchuk. I wish you the best. For my boy Broncos, I also wish you the best.
Yeah,
it's going to be the second year in a row that Plano has a monumental collapse and could miss the playoffs via the last week of the season.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of
last
things
year it was McKinney and the Lions that came out of nowhere
and beat them,
and now it could happen again. Sorry, well, Broncos, but
I'm not gonna. You know, look, I know that Wolchuk has been sick of the program for a number of years. Is sick of some of the leadership things that are happening. But going over to Prosper, talking about their growth from 3A to where they are right now, the new digs that they have. I mean, you talk about a phenomenal program. They have been looking to dethrone the Allens of the world because they think that their facilities rival theirs. But there's another thing that comes with the facilities, and that's a team. Right?
The talent on the field.
Talent on the field. So you're going to have to produce that. And just from a talent standpoint, you got to think that they're a couple years away from actually taking that step to beating an Allen. But you know, I think a lot of the other things is the 35-7 loss last week to Allen, but also looking at the Jesuit loss, 14-41, versus Jesuit a month back.
Yeah.
And so Prosper is going to have to define themselves. Now, Prosper, if they're making the playoffs, I believe that they are going to have first round. Do we know who Prosper has?
I don't know if that's been decided yet or not, but we'll get into that.
Okay, I thought I saw a matchup with Prosper that was pretty tough for a first round matchup, and so I know we're going to go over that in the second half. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But those are some things that, again, for teams like Prosper, teams that are trying to take this next step to be that elite team in North Texas. They're going to have to, and they know it, they're going to have to start beating the Allens of the world, and they definitely can't lose to a team like Jesuit if they want to be taken seriously.
No, not at all, and especially in that specific way that they did lose to Jesuit, who, of course, now we've seen that E.J. Smith broke his hand, and he's out for the rest of the year.
That's crazy.
A Jesuit squad that's taking on Plano East, that's where Professor Diggs is now driving to at the moment.
And Professor Diggs said that Plano was going to be Jesuit.
Yeah.
Tonight. Guaranteed.
Plano East, yeah.
Plano East, yeah, excuse me.
Yeah, you don't want to get those two mixed up.
Plano. You like that?
Okay.
While you drive, he's driving and he almost
off the road. And he's like,
that was for you, Diggs.
Oh, man.
I told you you'd be cussing at the radio.
And by the way, Prosper and Saxe, I believe, is that first round matchup. Is what it would be. So yes, a tough matchup, but still Prosper would be favored in that by a considerable margin. Let's move on to the TAPS level real quickly before we take our next break. Prestonwood Christian Academy. Coming off of a win over Bishop Lynch last week. Well, they took care of Bishop Lynch. Now they've got Bishop Dunn. As they potentially have a chance to go bookends on the two state finalists from a year ago in TAPS Division 1. And this is a Prestonwood squad. I mean, you take away the loss to Parrish. That's really been an incredible year for Prestonwood Christian Academy. They lost to that Atlanta, Georgia squad. Atlanta Christian, I believe, was the name of that school, by a touchdown earlier. Yes, you get blown out by Parrish, but you take that out of the equation, and Prestonwood's had a remarkable year and still quite possibly one of the favorites to make their way into a potential state championship run come playoffs.
Well, you know Prestonwood's going to be in the thick of it, and you look at their losses, and that's what you have to talk about. The team from Atlanta, I believe, and I want to misspeak here, but they were a nationally ranked team that they lost to. But again, last week, I believe in a loss, Prestonwood had.
It was Parrish 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Okay. Switzer didn't play a couple weeks ago. And so we don't know what's going on with that situation, but we do know that their replacement that they had last week was pretty good. He stepped in reserve time last week and did fill the role. A lot of that, we talk about every week, not being able to see a injury report like they do in the NFL and in college. But, I just believe it was versus Bishop Lynch last week. They beat Bishop Lynch last week.
Without the quarterback. It was the freshman McGuire Martin that came in. Didn't have to do anything especially out of the ordinary there. Just went, I think it was 8 for 14. He had 89 yards is what it says right here. Mm-hmm. It was the running game that was really what propelled Prestonwood to a win over Bishop Lynch. And that's something that I think has been kind of in the on the back burner when talking about PCA as a whole. That's a running game and a team that can win in multiple ways, but it's really the defense that's the stout part of that unit.
Yeah, well, look, that's at this point in the season, that's what you're going to have if you want to have any success, is a good defense and also a good running game. Last week they got behind Randall Holmes, who had 2 touchdowns, 95 yards rushing, and also Timothy Taylor. And so they know where their diamonds are shored up. They know what they got to do in order to get to the next level. It's going to be defense in the running game. I think they've been kind of at the quarterback position. We hadn't figured out if Switzer throws the ball better than he actually runs the ball, because he showed us such a variety of both all season. But McGuire Martin last week did step in, and that's something to say about a young kid stepping in a situation like this and getting a great victory, 26-10 over Bishop Lynch.
Well, I've gotten to see Prestonwood twice this year. The first time against Argyle Liberty Christian, and the second time against the Fort Worth All Saints. And both times, Jacob Switzer led his team to a victory. One time against Argyle, where they were behind by well over 20 points at the half, fought all the way back, in a game where Switzer had to take it over with his legs.
Yeah.
You just talked about that. Does he pass it or does he run it better? We don't know because he does both extraordinarily well. Because against Fort Worth, he ended up passing the ball all the way to a win. But this Prestonwood team has the chance to go a great distance.
Yeah.
Especially with Switzer on the field, beyond all the numbers that we can see plainly, the leadership that he exudes when he's in the huddle, when he walks up to the line, you can see how his offense responds to him and what he's doing specifically, and that really cannot be understated.
Yeah,
that's going to be a big loss if he's not able to get back on the field for PCA. But this TAPS, look, we talked about last year, and I figured out the dysfunction of TAPS last year when Bishop Lynch won the state.
Yeah, found the way to get all the way there.
How in the world did they get all the? Because at this point in the season they were 4-5.
Yeah,
and they turned around 500, finished 500, and win the state championship. So. Anything can happen. Yes, sir.
And you can say that about Bishop Dunn as well, a team that's lost 3 straight. They may lose tonight. They've already locked up a seed in the playoffs. Now
At
it's a very
4-5.
very low seed in the playoffs. I think they're the bottom seed in the bracket, whereas Prestonwood is the number 2 seed behind Parrish, I believe. So with that being said, there's a lot that can shake out at the TAPS level. There's a lot that can shake out over the course here of Week 11 of Whataburger Friday Night Stars. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll look at games like Rowlett and Saxe. Longview taking on Mesquite in what has kind of turned into a fun game here this week. And then Richland and Euless Trinity, a Trojan championship on the line tonight in District 3 6A. We'll talk about all that and more when we come back on Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
Gear up for back to sport at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
It's game day. A day that should be spent in the living room, not the kitchen. So next game, you just worry about the score, because we've got the food covered. With hand-battered, cooked-to-order, always fresh, never, ever frozen chicken fingers, craveable cane sauce, crispy crinkle-cut fries, and jugs of freshly made tea and lemonade. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love.
Go Cowboys!
It's in all of us, and we won't hold it back. Not one little bit. Nope, we embrace it, letting it fuel our passions, pushing us deeper than we thought possible and keeping us curious. It's what sets us apart from the herd. It's how we come up with the ideas that make people say, why didn't I think of that? See, when you nurture the creativity and passion that's in all of us, you'll learn nothing is out of reach.
Get excited, Whataburger fans. Our one-of-a-kind mushroom Swiss burger is back.
And now it's an all-time favorite. If you love mushrooms, you're going to love this burger.
The double cheese and mushrooms was absolutely amazing.
It's a really good balance between the mushrooms and the Swiss. And that au jus sauce on top.
The creamy au jus sauce.
It really complements the mushrooms. Everything just works perfectly together.
It's just perfect. Every bite's perfect.
It's not just a mushroom Swiss burger, it's a Whataburger mushroom Swiss burger.
Billy Martin. I'm an executive vice president with North Dallas Bank and Trust. It's about authentic intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence. At local banks like North Dallas, we give you personalized service that you just can't get at the big banks. Everything we do is driven by your best interest. We call it having a high YQ or U quotient.
Back here from the Star in Frisco, look inside the locker room just across the way of the Dallas Cowboys as they prepare to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Sunday night football again. Yeah, you're exactly right. Plenty on the line there. We're back inside the Star, the SWBC Mortgage Studios, home to Whataburger Friday Night Stars. If you haven't already, take a moment. Go online and wherever you're watching us, whether it's on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on Vimeo, subscribe, follow, like, share the show. We're trying to grow, of course, not only the coverage of Texas high school football, but really the love and the passion that is all behind it. That's one of the reasons we do this show, and we love doing it every Friday. Go like and share the show. If you haven't already, just do us a quick favor. It takes 2 seconds, and it's really, really appreciated. Also, this is something new. And we'll plug this again later in the show, in the overtime show as well. Like we did last year, and HECMA was a big part of this last year, our Friday Night Stars Superlative Awards that we had in the 2018 season. We had our Whataburger Friday Night Star, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and then players who were deemed MVPs at the same time. If you have nominations for that, tweet us at hashtag Friday Night Stars all the way through. Nominate some plays. If you've got a video, pull it up on your phone, tweet it at us to hashtag Friday Night Stars, whether it's a defensive play, special teams, offense. We'll find a way to spotlight it. And then if you've got players that have just been going above and beyond off the field and on the field, send us a message or shoot us a tweet with the hashtag on there as well, Friday Night Stars. We'll be taking those all the way throughout the playoffs, and you'll see more information on our social medias coming about that very, very soon. So with that being said, let's move on to Rowlett and Saxe District 10-6A and talk about a district where there hasn't necessarily been a lot settled. Of course, seeding-wise, there's a lot up to grabs. Saxe 7-2, Rowlett 4-5. Then you've got HECMA over in the corner, who from the get-go said that this was going to be a very intriguing district. Everybody told him he was crazy, yet he was right.
It happens.
It does happen.
It happens.
It did happen.
And I tell you what, what I basically said from the beginning is the dysfunction of 10-6A. The bottom half can beat the top half and vice versa. It just gets crazy. Now, it comes down to the last game of the season, and Rowlett, who started off really funky, guys, okay? It didn't look like this Rowlett team even had a prayer at making the playoffs, and here they are. Having an opportunity to cement their own destiny and get an opportunity to play in the playoffs. Now, would you like to do the people out there, would you please put this together for everyone?
Here's the thing. You talk about Rowlett controlling their own destiny.
Yes.
There are 3 teams right now with 2 playoff spots left. All 3 teams control their own destiny, which really provides wacky scenarios from the get-go, including Garland, Naaman, Forest, who, of course,
my
we
wife
love because
yes, my wife is a grad from
Miss HECMA loves her some Garland, Naaman, Forest. Now, they started the season 0-5, and they could be in a playoff spot with a win tonight. Saxe versus Rowlett, the game we're talking about now. Rowlett earns a playoff bid with a win or with a Garland, Naaman, Forest loss. Garland, Lakeview, Centennial also in this district, also a squad that we've highlighted over the 2019 campaign. They earn a playoff spot with a win or a Rowlett loss. And then Garland, Naaman, Forest earns a playoff spot with a win. It's simple for really all three teams, but especially for Garland, Naaman, Forest, because if they get a win, they're in. If they don't, they're done.
Right.
And so that's really the biggest thing. Now, Rowlett and Garland Lakeview Centennial each could find their way into the playoffs even with a loss, but at the same time, Garland, Naaman, Forest could really be the one that provides a little bit of that unclear look upon really that entire playoff scenario. But man, 10-6A, we kind of joked about it being a crazy district at the beginning of the year. It ended up turning into one of the more intriguing districts entering the final week of the regular season.
Yeah, Saxe for me, when I look at this Saxe team, the defense that they have, a team that almost beat Euless Trinity in the Cotton Bowl.
Did, yeah.
They got close, and you look at the 72 team, and you look at some of the their strength of schedule. Look, they've handled their business. They've done everything that they need to do. I think the other loss that they had when I look at Saxe, it was a close game. Where is it? We lost to Wiley. That's right. They lost to Wiley by 1 point, 22-21. But Saxe is a team that defensively has handled their business in this district. And Alex Rout is the intangible in this game that you say if Alex Rout goes off, it could be a long night for Saxe. Now, the other part about this, we talk about the Flower Mound Marcuses versus the Louisville and Battle of the Axe. This is a rivalry game. Okay, these kids grow up playing each other in their area as well. So this is it's about as big a rivalry game as there is. A lot of people don't identify with it because it's happening in 10-6A in that Garland, Wiley, Saxe area. But this is a big game, and so this is probably one of those games where you can throw the records out because it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, you can say that about our next matchup as well between Wiley and South Garland, sticking with that 10-6A matchup. But Wiley with a win wins a district title. Of course, both Saxe, if Saxe does come out victorious tonight against a Rowlett squad, then they'll also be a 6-1 in district. But like you said, Wiley defeating Saxe throws a wrench into things. But Wiley has a chance with a win today over South Garland to come out on top by themselves in District 10-6A with a championship.
And that would be remarkable. I mean, coming into the year, Saxe looked like the team that should take this overall. You're not like Wiley looked like a team that is a pretty clear second place, at least from everything I saw.
Yeah.
So that allow them to have the chance, and especially against the South Garland team that try to be nice but hasn't looked good.
No, 1-8 on the year for a reason.
Yes. So you think they should win this game? Wiley should have control of their own destiny, win the district, and see where you can go from there.
Yeah, Wiley is now you win the district at 5-4. Yeah, so that says what I'm talking about.
They've dominated the district, though.
But that's it. They've dominated the district. Saxe is 7-2, and if you didn't know any better, you would think that this is the game. They win the district. Not so much, because they lost that game by 1 point to Wiley, and Wiley has been so strong in the district. The whole term, and I live in this community, that AMO that these guys talk about is big time, okay? They believe in it. They believe that they have a home field advantage, and it's about the community with Wiley High School. So I'm excited for them. I think that they have a great defense, just like Saxe does, and they're going to play everybody tough. So, look, getting outside of this district, getting into the playoffs, Saxe and Wiley, they're dysfunctional in 10-6A, but don't let them unleash that dysfunction on you in the first round.
Yeah, sword fight between the Pirates and the Colonels on the other side. Hey, I got it right this week, by the way.
Look at you.
You mentioned big time in that elegant description and preview of that game, Heckma. You know what time it really is, though? Whenever the calendar turns to November.
What time is it?
It's Salina time.
I heard about that.
They like to call it Salina time when it comes playoff time, and they've got a chance to really prove the fact that it's Salina time tonight against Argyle.
problem with that is there's a guy named Bo Hogaboom.
Is it Hogaboom time?
Hogaboom time, boys. Okay. And Argyle is not the team that you want to mess around with right now because this is a team that is on a mission. And they are handling business. They're not just beating teams. They are spanking teams and putting them on punishment. You know, teams are not coming back the same after playing Argyle. Tito Bice, that running game. Look, we go back to the La Vega hazing, basically. La Vega was all over him on Twitter, and Argyle lost to him. And I think they have been living on that loss for a long time. You look at every game they play, they're wiping teams out. So they're leaving no question as they go towards the state championship.
123 completions for Bo Hogaboom, 39 touchdowns.
He is balling.
I think that it's a good ratio. You think about every 4 passes, you score a touchdown.
Pretty good, right?
So that's all right.
Yeah, all right.
All things considered.
Yeah.
But like you said, Argyle is on a mission. They want every team not only in their district in North Texas to know you don't want to play us.
Yeah.
Because we will come after you with every single ounce of energy that we can possibly muster, and we will win. And that, when you have that mentality, especially as going through the entire team like it does, it's really hard to knock a team off like that with that much momentum and that much talent.
It is tough, and like you said, the talent playing there, but the momentum is absolutely there for Argyle.
They have plenty of it. I mean, it started week 1 for Argyle all the way to this point, and I mean this is an impressive squad. Everything that they've done from top to bottom, I have been overly impressed by. I was last year. It tickled me how La Vega hazed them on social media, and I did not expect for La Vega to pull out a victory, but they did, and I'm telling you that Argyle squad is living in the memory of that, and they are beating people down.
They're angry at the same time of doing all of that. And sticking with going from 4A, rather, going back to 6A, this was a game we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. Euless Trinity kind of not themselves this year. You could say at the same time they're still 8-1.
I didn't get that. I don't know
why. I don't know why that's necessarily the case, because they're 8-1 and they've got a chance to win a district championship tonight against Richland. Richland coming in at 4-5, and man, that Trinity defense has just been so good, guys.
Yeah, Trinity. I guess when Professor Diggs made the statement about Euless Trinity not being themselves, and mentally, I was going back in my mind like, who do they lose to? Who do they lose to? And then I said, they weren't themselves versus Haltom.
Yeah.
That one game. Euless Trinity is a team, historically, if you look at them, I don't know what happens, but for one night and one night only, they turn into, they say your carriage turns to a pumpkin at 12 o'clock, they turn to a pumpkin. All right? And so they forget the carriage, and just for one night, they do that year in and year out, but I don't see anything different happening tonight. I mean, guys, you look at everything that Euless Trinity has done, quarterback Irvin, these guys are amazing. And their running game is, they beat you up with a ton of guys. They don't beat you up with just one guy. And so you talk about the defense and also the offense, you know how this is going to go. They are going to milk that clock down to, by the time, if they win the coin toss, you're not getting the ball until there's a minute left in the first quarter. Yeah. And you better not go 3 and out, because guess what? They're going to get the ball again, and they're going to do the same thing again, and it's going to be the second quarter, 3 minutes left, and you're getting back on that means you've only had 2 possessions for the first half. And that's the way that Euless Trinity beats you, because they just pound on you, and they just keep your offense over there on the sideline cold.
It's fun talking about this team when we're sitting in the Star, because you kind of watch them, you think this is a high school version of the Dallas Cowboys of 2014. The way that it's run at you, you know it's coming, you can't stop it still. They control the clock, and they get a lot of just solid victories. They're hard to stop, and their defense is always exceptional.
Yeah, and that's a good reference. And back in 2014, you wouldn't necessarily think about that for the Cowboys, but Trinity has kind of turned into that here in 2019. Now, talk about the carriage for the pumpkin. The Cinderella story is absolutely Richland. You look at the way they started the year, 0-4. You lose to Frisco Lone Star. You lose to Keller Central. You lose to Rockwall Heath, and then you lose to Arlington Lamar. 0-4. Automatically, you're looking at Richland as, this might not be the year. Well, that wasn't the case. They turned it around. They got a win against Abilene at home. Then they fell by 1 point to Hearst LD Bell, and they haven't lost since. They're 4-1 in district play. Richland can win a district title tonight if they come out on top against Trinity and the Trojans.
Well, I mean, that's
wild.
That opening schedule's fierce.
Isn't that like a coach's dream to be able to go through that schedule and not have any repercussions of anything laying over, at least into your district play? From getting beat up so badly by great teams?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of coaches that believe in that. They schedule a tough, they call it preseason, but first, non-district games as tough as they possibly can, in hopes that their team actually responds to that, because they believe that upper echelon of play will make their play go up as well. Look, this is the wrong night to need a win.
It is the wrong night to need a win. However, if they can keep it close, Richland knows how to win some close games. You look at how they beat Abilene, 35-34. They beat San Angelo Central by a field goal, 30-27. They beat Haltom by a pretty solid margin. And then they got in a boat race with Weatherford, and all of a sudden Richland came out on top of that one by a field goal as well, 65-62. They can win close games, and if it's close, don't look past the Richland Rebels to potentially make something happen against the Trinity Trojans tonight. I don't think this is a pick'em game, so we'll talk about this in a little bit. I'm not gonna make
That's
that pick
exactly
yet.
what I was about to say. So are you saying right now?
We'll see you in a minute.
Okay,
We've got a little bit of time before then. Okay, let's go to Longview and Mesquite really quickly. 11-6J. Let's quickly look through the numbers of this one. Longview looking to wrap up what has been an unreal season for the Lobos on the back half of their state title last year. Look at the total defense. That's been impressive for Longview. Now, that's against DFW teams, might I mind you, over the course of the year. But still, regardless of what you're doing, that they've played a Rockwall squad and still have those numbers. They've played Mesquite teams and still had those numbers. They continue to put up points and not allow any on the other end.
Yeah, the Lobos look like a team that is destined to repeat as 6A champions, period. Let's just stop it, okay? On both sides of the ball, Haynes King is, again, and to mention, you talk about baller.
Balling.
That's him. I mean, he plays beyond his years. The Lobos are loaded, like I said, on both sides of the ball. It's time to start thinking about a dynasty here for Longview, okay, with Haynes King. And, there's no one that's going to dethrone the Lobos. You know how tough they are. The Skeeters need a victory tonight, but, it's not going to come.
Another squad that needs a victory tonight, Mansfield Timberview on the road against Highland Park. The Scots with a win, locking up their 52nd district title.
How is that possible?
In program history. Isn't that
possible?
That's over half a century and growing continuously. Winningest high school football program in Texas. And
Would you say weird?
Yes.
Weird. Thank you.
It is weird. You don't see things like this.
No. 52
52
district championships.
Oh yeah,
that's amazing.
Not playoff appearances, district titles.
52
of them. That's unbelievable. I mean,
we've been playing Texas high school football for a long time,
yeah.
and you got to know that there are a lot of intangibles that happen throughout the course of a season. I'm talking about injuries. We're talking about weather. Last year it rained for 10 Fridays straight, right? I mean, there have got to be a lot of things that have to happen within the course of a year to win a district title each and every year. Maybe God is a Highland Park fan too.
He might be.
That's fine.
God might love plaid.
Is that what it is?
That
I'll
might
just
be
go
what
with
it
that.
is.
I'll go with that because I can't think of nothing else. I'm with you, Will.i.am. It's weird.
It's a testament, though, to the upper part of that school and what they've been able to do to have that kind of
Just
consistency.
stay with weird, Will.
He's trying to give him some more credit. And Randy Allen has absolutely done that in a modern era of high school football.
Amazing coach.
Continue that tradition. And it's talk about dynasty for the Longview Lobos. There's already been a dynasty for Highland Park. They're just looking to continue it. Final game on our list tonight, San Angelo Central and Haltom. And this is kind of interesting. This is a playoff spot. up for grabs
Right.
in this district, 3-6A. We've got Lincoln Reveille potentially at this game. Lincoln went to the Birdville Fine Arts Athletic Complex where this game was scheduled to be played. The lights were off. No one was there. We don't know where this game is being played. So if you know, shoot us a tweet if you know where this game
Lincoln
is at.
is lost.
Because Lincoln is trying to get there so we can have highlights for this game, but he is nowhere to be found because he can't find the game. Anyways, going to the specific game, though, no Michael Black anymore. It's been an up and down year for Haltom. Of course, we've talked about their win over Trinity. This is a chance for them to kind of get right a little bit and find their way into the playoffs, guys.
Now you got to tell me there's a lot of implications on this. Now this is basically for Haltom. It's a win or go home scenario.
Yes,
for Haltom.
So it's a crazy scenario overall of what can happen.
Explain.
There's only two teams have found their way into the playoffs, and that's the Trinity and Richland sides that we saw a couple moments ago.
So they're 1-2.
So they're 1-2. However, with district-wise, it's Division I seed, number 1 seed, and Division II number 1 seed. Those are the two teams that we talked about a minute ago. However, with San Angelo Central, they can clinch a win over Haltom. They
Clinch
can
a playoff spot over.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Clinch a playoff spot over Haltom. Central can also make the playoffs with a loss by 10 points or fewer to Haltom.
What?
Yeah, because it comes down to points.
Points, okay.
At that point, because there are other teams in the middle of that hunt, like Weatherford and LD Bell, or not LD Bell, excuse me. It's Weatherford. That's the other squad that's kind of trying to squeeze their way into that mix. But they're playing LD Bell tonight at home. So the Kangaroos trying to hop in over either San Angelo Central or Haltom. But you can make it easy on yourself, win and get in.
Yeah.
But you got to lose by 10 or less. And then both of these squads would get in over Weatherford.
Yeah, it's a mess. And so, I mean, you talk about, hey, we can't lose by no more than 10 points, guys, and stay in this. I don't know a coaching that'll say that. But, victory. San Angelo Central has to get a victory to get in. Haltom is a team that I believe, obviously, they played against tougher opponents. And just to say that they beat King Kong is enough for me to go with Haltom in this one.
Yeah. And correction on what I was saying with some of the confusing point spread in this in terms of that. Haltom would make the playoffs with a win over San Angelo Central by 11 or more automatically. But then if they don't beat them by 11 or more and Weatherford wins against LD Bell, then Weatherford and San Angelo Central would still get in. So it's not as straight cut.
So you got to win, but you got to win by more than 11 points?
Yes. Wow. By 11 or more.
That's crazy. Now, that's weird.
There you go, my man. That is weird. All right, we've got just a small amount of time left before we kick off some of these games. It's time for predictions. Let's take a look at some of the standings. Though Heckma doesn't like them that much. I know you don't.
I don't understand it. I don't understand how that happens. It makes no sense. That makes no sense.
How about the parody in our Friday Night Stars crew?
It's no parody. You guys are all picking the same. No one's taking. Look.
Pick different games than me. We've done it the past 6 weeks.
I don't trust the fact that Eric and Zach, I'm not hearing them.
Eric went 4-1 last week. I went 1-4. So if you think
there's no way possible for Eric Chiafalo to go 4-1, period.
He did.
We all gotta get lucky sometimes, right?
I'll show you the message.
Unbelievable.
Are we going to base this off of winning percentage? Because right now I'm 0-0.
He could go 5-0 and win the whole thing.
Is that
Will, you're not going to walk in here with that. That's not going to happen, okay?
I had to try. Right?
You did.
Fair.
Nice.
That's a good
try.
shot. We'll let you go first with this then. How about Flower Mound Marcus and Louisville? We started off with a bang. Who you got, Will?
I think the Marauders walk into Louisville and keep doing what they're doing.
Okay, I like it. Quick, simple. I'll pick Flower Mound Marcus on here as well. Go ahead, Heckma.
Flower Mound Marcus.
Marcus across the board?
Yes.
No love for the fight.
Go to the next game.
Keller Central and Keller.
Who are you picking?
I'm taking the Indians of Keller at home.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
Are you serious? What's the matter with you?
I like the Indians in this one.
Wow.
I think the matchup's
What's their running back's name?
I'm not even going to get into that.
Enoch Chobo. That's your guy. You know his name.
I don't know how to say his last name.
Okay, so I'm going Keller Central on this. I can't believe it.
Chobo. See, I still can't even do it.
You did it. You nailed
close.
it.
Not really.
Well, I'm trying to help you out here. I'm going Keller Central. That defensive line is going to wreak absolute havoc against Keller tonight.
Did you say Keller Central?
I said Central.
Okay, well, I'm all by myself in that one. Lovejoy in Frisco, and what is an intriguing matchup at the 5A level. I'm going to take the Raccoons at home in a close one. A little bit of a shootout in this one, which is not what you expect with the Frisco Raccoons.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
This is tough. You could go either way.
I'm going Lovejoy.
I like it.
I like Lovejoy in this one.
Okay.
RW, my man, I believe he has a big night tonight, so I'm going Lovejoy in this one.
I'm feeling Frisco at home.
I bet you are.
Kind of, got to shake it up a little bit.
All right. Come on.
Richland and Trinity, district title game.
Haka
all the way.
Haka's all around.
No chink in the armor for the Trojans.
Man, no.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm taking Trinity here as well. I want
That's
Richland. Like, my heart's with Richland, and I want them to make this a game because I think that'd be such a cool story. But it's not happening. It's going to be Trinity.
I think it's going to be a game, but I think...
You think so?
I don't think Trinity is going to lose it.
Okay, that's fair. Mansfield, Timberview, Highland Park to cap us off. Highland Park at home, Highlander Stadium.
I don't even understand why you have this as a pick'em. All right, they don't lose.
Timberview's got athletes.
They don't lose at home.
They've lost at home already this year. That magic might be gone.
They lost at home.
It might have been floating away.
Yeah, I'm going Highland Park in this one, man. Come on, cut it out.
It'd be weird if I didn't go with Highland Park.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Highland Park as well. Hey, I like the weird again. We've got a little bit of a show drop going. I love it. So that's going to do it here for our kickoff show, Week 11 of Texas high school football. When we come back at 9 o'clock, 9 to 11, we'll give you highlights, scores, interviews, and everything you need to know over the course of Texas high school football's final week of the regular season. We're glad you've joined us. And, man, when we come back, we've got plenty to talk about because we've got playoff matchups moving forward when we return. 9 o'clock for everybody involved. For Professor Diggs, Heckma Harrison, for William Broderick, Chris Beam, Matt Kent, Chance Williams, and everybody involved here for Game On Sports. I'm Kyle Yeomans saying so long from the Star in Frisco. We'll see you at 9 o'clock.